Good morning, it's Jeremy. It's Monday, November the 3rd. I'm just looking at my setup that I use to receive CubeSats. It's my ATSC antenna. I've pointed it due east. The reason being is that's about the only area now that has no condos in it. So when the CubeSats make it pass, hopefully they send a burst of signal during that interval when it's in that open area. So basically the receiver consists of an adapter from the CATV connector to BNC, to SMA. Then I got my bandpass filter, my 436 megahertz LNA, and the RTL. And I have a lithium battery pack here because the LNA doesn't have a bias T. So that's the reception setup. Saturday, November the 1st, I was able to receive ENSO from France. It's a CubeSat, and we're going to try and receive it again this morning at 11:41.
Good afternoon, it's Jeremy. It's Saturday, November the 1st, and we're going to try and receive a CubeSat here. It's going to be passing by in about half an hour, and it'll be passing by to the east. I'm going to use the same procedure that I used for receiving EIR-SAT1 and Veronica. The transmitter is GMSK at 436.5 megahertz, and I'm going to use SDR sharp. I've set it 20 kilohertz below, so the spectrum will be up here, and I'll use GNURadio to decode it. I'm setting the VCO a little bit lower because of the Doppler shift. I'm sampling at 250 kilosamples per second. So we'll start recording when the satellite comes within view. Okay, so we're coming momentarily into the footprint. Satellite's coming from the north. This is on SatNog's database. Over on GPredict, there we are. There's the satellite, there's the footprint, and that's where we are. So we'll start recording our baseband file any minute now. Okay, so I recorded the baseband IQ file. We're sampling at 250 kilosamples per second. And I recorded it for about 4 minutes till I could see from GPredict that the satellite had passed to the south. Then what I did is the file's quite big. Remember, if you're recording at a higher sample rate, like let's say 1 megasample per second or 2.4, files get big very fast. So depending on the bandwidth, you want a lower sampling rate so the files don't get too big. In any case, the file was about 4 minutes long, so I opened it up in Audacity, and I could see the activity was towards the end of the saved file. So I shaved off a lot of it and saved it as a smaller file just so it's easier to handle. So what I've done is I've opened that smaller file here in, I've got a baseband file player, and we can see what the signal looked like. So the file that I cut down here, these are the pulses and the times. So the two biggest pulses we get, or the two biggest signals from the CubeSat, are at 140 and 150. So let's look at that on here. So I'll open up, this is the baseband file player. And what we can do is we'll stop the recording and figure out what the center frequency is. It'll be below the received frequency of 436.5 because of the Doppler shift. So let's play this, and we'll look around 130. So around 140 and 150, we'll see some big pulses, and I'll stop it at 150. So there's the first pulse, it's big. And there's the biggest pulse. So what we can do now is we want to figure out what that frequency is. So it looks like 496. So it's approximately 16 kilohertz above where we are, where we set the VCO at 480. So then we go to GNURadio, and there's the CubeSat decoder. It's from Daniel Estevez EA4G PZ. He's the one who designed this. So what we do in the decoder is we put into this block here under supported GR satellites is an out of tree module for GNURadio. So we put in the satellite name there, ENSO, and then we set the frequency translating filter. I've got it set for 15.5. I found that was the best performance. And then what we do is the hex dump will give us a decode if there's something there. So let's run this and we'll wait for a couple of minutes and see what we get. Okay, so the wave file repeats here in GNURadio Companion. So the decoder has given me two outputs. First time around, it gave me 9K6 FSK downlink. That's the decode there. And then the second time round, it was 15 bytes versus 9 bytes. Let's just look at the output here. There's the baseband spectrum. So there's the major pulse that gave us the decode, the one at I think it was 150, and that's the spectrum before the frequency translator, and that's the time sync there. So then we have a successful decode of ENSO. Okay, now we're at November the 3rd, and we've got another pass of ENSO, so I'm going to turn my recorder on. We've just entered into the satellite footprint. That's SatNog's database. And here's gpredict. So there we are up here, and the satellite's going to pass like that. So let's go over to SDR sharp, and we'll put the recorder on. We'll wait and see what happens here. Okay, so I recorded at about 4 minutes, and I forgot to set this at 480, so it's set at 500, which is fine. I'm going to, I looked through all the various pulses, and the strongest one is around 116, so we'll look at that. That's the best one. So around 115, 116, you'll see a strong pulse. That was it there. So that's about 509 to 510. So we'll look at that in GNURadio. So we're just looking at GNURadio here, and for that pulse at 1 minute 16 seconds, we have a decode of 158 bytes. So that was a fairly strong pulse, probably better than the one on November the 1st. And if we look at the spectrum, here's the, I guess that pulse, and there's the baseband before the frequency translation. So that looks like a fairly good decode.